Okay, Anno Christi 561, of the kings of the kingdom of East Foxe, which began in the year 561, as did that of Mercia. Sebertus was the first of them that was christened in this kingdom. Sexridus and his brother Sewardus, reigning together, expelled Miletus the bee, because he would not administer the bread of the sacrament to them unbaptized. Cybert was baptized, and ministers were sent into his country to preach and to baptize. Sebi and Offa become monks. This kingdom lasted to Egbert K. of West Foxe. 561 AD. Okay. Of the kings of East Angles, which kingdom began 561, Uffa has his name occasioned the people of Norfolk to be called Uskins. Cadwaldus joins idolatry with Christianity by the counsel of his wicked wife. Erpwaldus began and continued entire in the Christian religion. Sigebert become monk. Ethelred for his holiness was counted for a saint. He coming to Offa, king of Mercia, to marry his daughter, was innocently slain of him. After Elbobrit, his kingdom was under diverse of the other kings, tyrannizing over it till Saint Edmund. This kingdom continued 377 years. 578, kings of Britain. 580, Roman bishop Pelagius. Gregory opposed the setting up of a universal bishop at Constantinople. He brought in the style of the Roman bishops, Servus Servorum. 588, Archbishop of Canterbury, this says Augustine. In the days of Pelagius, Bishop of Rome, one Gregory, seeing fair children sold in the marketplace of Rome, and understanding that they were heathens of England, lamented the misery of such angelical persons, and inquiring out that they were of the province of Dara, whence Derham is named, these people, saith he, 589 AD, are to be delivered de Diera. Lastly, knowing their kingdom to be called Ale, he saith that Alleluia ought there to be sung to the living God. But Pelagius would not permit this Gregory to effect these allusions, but after being bishop next to Pelagius, he sent over Austin with other preachers, about the number of 40. Austin sends to the said Gregory to be resolved of diverse doubts about the behavior of bishops, marriage of priests, and so on, which Gregory answers, granting wives to the priests that could not contain. Let's see, kings of England, kings of Britain, East Angles, East Saxons, Mercia, Northumberland, West Saxons, South Saxons, and Kent. We're at 600 AD. Austin of a monk, by Gregory his Paul, made Archbishop of Canterbury. After he had baptized a great part of Kent, he made 2 archbishops by the command of said Gregory, viz. The Archbishop of London and the Archbishop of York. This Austin chargeth the said bishops to assist in preaching to the Englishmen, and that reformation should be made in the Scottish and British churches in diverse things, particularly to change their time of Easter to the custom of Rome. but the Scots and Britons utterly refused to change their custom. Austin was so proud that he would not bow to 7 bishops and 1 archbishop coming to a council at his command, whereupon the said bishops and archbishop was so perverse that they denied to assist him to convert the idolatrous Saxons, a great fault on both sides. Austin baptized, as authors say, 10,000 in one day, via the feast of Christ's nativity. Observe, fonts were not then in use, nor were there many trinkets used about baptism as now at Rome, else Austin could not have baptized so many in one day. Austin sat some 15 years archbishop. He ordained Lawrence archbishop. So we see in 604 A.D., Archbishop of Canterbury, Laurentius. See also page 173 of the Great Volume. In 604, about this time departed Gregory, Bishop of Rome, of whom it is said he was the basest of all his predecessors and the best of all his successors. About this time died David, Archbishop of Caerleon. About this time was Joh, Patriarch of Alexandria, who of a hard sparing man became bountiful in hospitality to the poor. He would twice a week sit all the day at his door to take up matters and make unity where was any variance. He lamented much one day because none came that day to him, as having done no good. But his deacon persuaded him rather to joy, that he had brought the city into that good order, that there needed no reconcilement. 610. Sabinius. Sabinius is a Roman bishop. He was a malicious detractor of Gregory and his works. He continued scarce 2 years. And then the third archbishop of Canterbury, Meletius. It says, see page 173 of the Great Volume. He did more hurt in his 1 year being bishop than Gregory could do in many. He obtained of Foxe, the wicked emperor, that he and his successors in that see should have an universal headship over all the churches of Christendom. Boniface over Rome, Roman bishop. This Boniface, the 5th, sent letters and presents to K. Edwin of Northumberland, a pagan, to win him to the faith. 4th Archbishop of Canterbury, Justus. Justus ordained Paulinus, Archbishop of York. Of him see also page 173 of the Great Volume. Year of Christ 627. K. Edwin, being wounded by treason with a sword, was thereupon moved to cause that his daughter should be baptized, and 12 more of his family, if he should give him victory in battle over the king of the West Saxons. But when he had the victory, he neglected his promise, excusing himself that he might not clearly deny his old law, which his forefathers had kept so long, and suddenly be christened without authority and advice of his council. But by the preaching of Paulinus, the first Archbishop of York, he left his maiometry. At last by Peculinus, his earnest prayers to God, and pressing the K with his promise, he received the faith and was baptized, with many of his subjects with him. After this, the said Paulinus baptized daily many multitudes, and great peace was throughout the kingdom, so that a woman laden with gold might have gone quietly. 634. The 5th Archbishop of Canterbury, Honorius. Of Honorius Archbishop, see page 173 of the Great Volume. 6 years after Edwin's baptism, who brought in the faith in the north parts, was he slain in battle by Cedwalla the British king, and by wicked Penda king of the Mercians, in the field called Hatfield. Edwin being dead, and Cedwalla with the Britons, and wicked Penda with his idolatrous Mercians, spoiling the country, Paulinus with the Queen Ethelberg was fain to fly by water into Kent, where Paulinus was Bishop of Rochester 19 years, no bishop being in Northumberland for 30 years after. But Paulinus had left James, a godly deacon, who preached and baptized many, till peace and the former condition of that country returned. By means of Edwin, Erpwaldus K of the East Angles was reduced to Christ's faith. After Edwin and his son, slain both in battle, Osricus and Enchiridas reigned there, the one in Deira, the other in Bernicia, these two being first christened in Scotland, after being kings returned to their idolatry, and so the year following were both slain by Cedwalla and Penda. Alright, 636 AD, Roman Bishop Honorius I, after whom succeeded Oswaldus, ruling both provinces, Deira and Bernicia, whom when Cedwalla and Penda thought to slay also, he being smaller in number, cried to God in prayer to help him for the salvation of his people against those two enemies. And so in the field called Densbury he conquered Cedwalla and Penda. This Oswald disdained not to expound and preach the gospel to his people. By this Oswald's means, Cynegilsus, king of West Saxons, was converted through the preaching of Baranus, who was sent by Pope Honorius into England to preach, which Baranus was made Bishop of Dorchester, by whom King Ulysses was baptized. King Ulysses made the same day the same Oswaldus to be both his godfather and his son-in-law. Anno Christi 643. Year of Christ 643. Oswald, having reigned 9 years, is slain by Penda. Penda is slain by Oswic, the brother of Oswald, king after him in the kingdom of Northumberland. He married his daughter to Weda, son of Penda, and made him king of South Mercia, upon condition he should become a Christian, which when Penda his father was dead he performed. Wulferus his brother succeeded, who was christened and is counted the first Christian king of Mercia. Adanus, a Scottish bishop, having a stately and princely horse, given him with trappers, by King Oswin of Deira, to the end that he might not so much travel on foot, meeting a poor man, asking alms of him as he rode, and having nothing else to give him, gave him his horse, trapped as he was. The king rebuked him for parting with that choice horse, when other meaner might have served the beggar. The bishop replied, Dost thou, O king, set more by a horse, the foal of an horse, than by the Son of Mary, yea, the Son of God? At which words the king fell at his feet, promising never after to gainsay any charity he should show. 651 Year of Christ. To Edict or Bennett, surnamed B, who brought up Bede from 7 years old all his life in learning, a nobleman and in great favor with King Oswy, left all honor and preferment to serve Christ, and furnished the kingdom with good books fetched from Rome. He also brought in glazing into England. In Rome it's Vitellianus alias Vitellianus. and in Canterbury, Adeodatus alias Deus Dedit. Cuthbertus, bishop, is said to live about this time, with divers other godly bishops. But the said Cuthbert is not by writers said to be Archbishop of Canterbury till after the year 735. See after that year. A synod about this time is held of diverse bishops, wherein many held against the Britons and Scottish bishops for observing of Easter. For Colman, Archbishop of York, and the Britons, according to Adanus Finianus and the other bishops their predecessors had held, and the Scottish bishops then did hold, did observe contrary to the use among the Romans and Saxons the time of Easter from the 14th day of the first month till the 8th and 20th of the same month, whether it were Sabbath or no. The other side, as Wilfrid the priest, who spake for the rest, as Agilbert and so on, held that according to the custom of Rome, Italy, France, Asia, Africa, Egypt, and Greece, Easter should not be kept on the 14th day, unless it were Sabbath, but to be respirated to the next Sabbath between the 14th and the 21st day. The former side alleged for their tenant St. John the Evangelist's example. This latter alleged St. Peter's, the king, concluded thus: For so much as St. Peter is the doorkeeper of heaven, I will not gainsay him, but obey his orders, lest when I come to the gates of heaven he shut them against me. To this reason the multitude yielded, but Colman in displeasure left the realm and went to Scotland. Wolferus, converting the South Saxons, that they had received baptism, presently they had rain, which they had wanted 3 years, causing a great famine, insomuch that the people would go 40 together upon the rocks, and take hands, and throw themselves down into the sea. Wilfrid taught the South Saxons the art of fishing with nets. About this time the detestable sect of Mahomet began to take strength and place. Of Mahomet came the kingdom of Aragans, whom he after named Saracens, to whom he gave sundry laws, patched of many sects. He taught them to pray with their faces to the south. As we keep Sunday, so they keep Friday, which they call the day of Venus. He permitted them to have as many wives as they were able to maintain, and to have as many concubines as they listed, to abstain from wine except on some solemn days of the year, to have and to worship one God, omnipotent, and to esteem Moses and the prophets great, but Christ is greater. As being born of the Virgin Mary by the power of God without man's seed, and at last was taken up to heaven, but was not slain, but another in his likeness for him, with many other wicked blasphemies in his law contained. At length his kingdom of the Saracens began to be conquered of the Turk, and in process of time wholly subdued unto him, as we shall declare in the years following, in which those several passages were done. In 668, Archbishop of Canterbury, number 7, Theodorus. This Theodore was sent from Italy into England by Vitellianus, the Pope, to be Archbishop of Canterbury, and divers other monks of Italy to set up here in England Latin service, masses, and such other Romish ware. This Theodore plays Rex, displacing Sita and Wilfrid, Archbishops of York, pretending they were not lawfully consecrated, notwithstanding they were sufficiently authorized by their kings, and were placed against their wills. 679 Agatho, and 680. In the time of this Theodore, a synod was held at Thetford, ordaining that Easter should be kept throughout the realm upon one certain day, v. Prima 14 Luna Mensis Primi, that no bishop should meddle in another's diocese, that monasteries should be free from bishop's jurisdiction, that monks should not stay from their own monastery to another, nor a clergyman from his own bishop to another diocese, that synods provincial should be kept in the realm at least once a year, with divers other ordinances of like nature. 681 to 605. In the next year after that synod was held the Sixth General Council at Constance, at which was Theodore under Pope Agatho present, where it was permitted that Greek priests should have wives, and forbidden to the Latin. 705. In the 6th year of Iva, beginning to reign about this time, most valiantly warring against the Kentish Saxons, was one Cutblake, a confessor, who first was a monk, and after an anchorite. Let's see. Emperors of Greece, Philippisus, in Rome, Constantine I, 707 AD, and in Canterbury, 8, Brithwold, or Burgualdus. Let's see, I'll start here. In the 6th year of Iva, beginning to reign about this time, most valiantly warring against the Kentish Saxons, was one Cuthlake, a confessor, who first was a monk, and after an anchorite. Osredus succeeds his father, Alfred, in Northumberland. Philippicus is mentioned after page 167. In 717, year of Christ. Okay. In the 16th year of Iva, Ethelred, king of Mercia, having reigned 30 years, was made a monk and after abbot of Bardney. P. Const is mentioned page 167. This year being about the 18th of King Ive, his reign, died that learned Bishop Aldemus, first abbot of Malmesbury, after Bishop of Sherborne, which see was after united to Winton. John of Beverley, Bishop of York, dieth. That's around 717. In the time of Ive, who reigned 37 years, began first the right observation of Easter Day by the Picts and Britons, in which observation 3 things are necessary. 1. The full moon of the first month, 1 of March. 2. The Dominical letter. 3. The equinoctial day, which was wont to be counted in the East Church, and especially among the Egyptians, to be about the 17th of March, so that the full moons either on the equinoctial day or after the equinoctial day being observed, the next dominical day following that full moon is to be taken for Easter Day. But then 2 things must be noted. 1. The fullness of the moon must be perfectly full, so that it be the beginning of the 3rd week of the moon, which is the 14th or 15th day of the moon. That the said perfect fullness of the moon, beginning the 3rd week, must happen either in the very evening of the equinoctial day or after the equinoctial day. For else, if it happen either on the equinoctial day before the evening, or before the equinoctial, it belongeth to the last month of the last year, and not to the first month of the first year, and so serveth not to be observed. This rite, in keeping Easter, being received in the Latin Church, began now among the Picts and Britons through the busy travel of Theodorus Cuthlicus, but namely of Elbert the holy monk, as they term him, and of Cofrid Albert of Serwin. This Cofrid wrote also to Narcanus, or Natonus, the king of the Picts, concerning these having of priest's crowns, as necessary to the vow of a monk or degree of a priest, for restraint, and thus began his ceremony without any proof of Scripture. Roman Bishop Gregory II. Pope Gregory II is mentioned on page 167. 724. King Ive, yet reigning, being the 37th year of his reign, is importantly persuaded by his Queen Ethelberg to turn monk at Rome, to which, when he did not at first yield, the king departing to some other place, the queen caused all the king's glorious palace to be smeared and filled with hogs and dung and filth, and in their lodging chamber was put a sow with young pigs. Then the queen brings the king to that palace, saying, I pray you, my lord, behold this house, where are now all the rich hangings, and clothes of gold, and so on, that were left here the other day. Be not all these gone? In like manner shall we vanish away, and our bodies now delicately fed shall turn to the filth of the earth. Wherefore remember my words, and purchase that palace that is eternal. Thus she did win the king to go to Rome in the habit of a poor man, and become a monk, and she herself became the abbess of Barking Nunnery, 7 miles from London. Year of Christ 729. This Ive was the first I read of all the Saxon kings, the which did set forth any laws to his people. Next to Osricus followed Seleucus, who was a very learned man, and his time nourished many learned men, among whom was Beda, who dedicated his story, intituled Anglorum Historia, not only to be ratified, but also to be amended, as some writers affirm. This Bede, because we have now mentioned him, was, as he witnesseth in his history, a priest of the monastery of Peter and Paul at Wyre, and born in the territories of the same monastery. He was from 7 years bred up by Bennet, and become a deacon at 19 years, and at 30 a priest, from which time to the 59th year he interpreted the works of ancient fathers, and wrote treatises to the number of 37 volumes, which he digested into 78 books. For this Beda wrote P. Sergius I, requiring Selfrid, abbot of Wyre Abbey, to send up the said Bede to Rome for the same of his learning. The Church of Rome, as appears by that Sergius his letter, making use of Beda for discussing of many controversies in learning, all the Latin Church giving him the mastery and judgment and knowledge of the Latin fathers, in all his explanations he, omitting curiosity of skill, mainly endeavored to inform his reader in the love of God and of his neighbor. Thus Beda continued to the age of 62 years. He translated the Gospel of St. John into English. He made a comfortable and godly end. Okay, we have Archbishops of Canterbury, 9, 10, 11, and Roman bishops, like Gregory III on page 167, and we have Constantine VI. Of Constantine VI, see the first, that's an emperor of Greece. Of Constantine VI, see the first great volume, page 868, column 1, line 60. 741, Pope Zachary is mentioned following in this page see also page 137 of the great volume. See how he forbade all funeral exequies and lamentations to be made for him. Egobert, this is 747 now. Egobert, king of Northumberland, erected a noble library in York. This Cuthbert collected this year a great synod of bishops and prelates in the month of September at Clonshaw, there decreeing that bishops should be more diligent in admonishing the people, live in peace, visit yearly the parishes of their diocese, that priests should not be ordained till their lives were examined. Being ordained should not meddle with secular affairs, with diverse other ordinances touching monasteries, baptism, the Holy Supper, prayer, and so on. Of Leo IV, Emperor of Greece, beside this, see page 171, column 1, line 16. A copy of these ordinances Cuthbert sends to Boniface, Bishop of Mentz, an Englishman, with Boniface died a martyr, as Popish stories term him. This Boniface, Bishop of Mentz, writes to Ethelbald, King of Mercia, in Latin, rebuking him, that whilst he contemned lawful matrimony, he did defile the sacred nuns. This Boniface, being admitted Archbishop of Mayence by Pope Gregory II, brought diverse countries of the Germans under the Pope, and set up abundance of popish prelates and ceremonies, as worshipping of relics, and so on. In the time of this Archbishop, Pope Gregory II, Pope Gregory III, Pope Zachary, and before these, Constantine I, wrought great masteries against the Greek emperors. Philippicus and Leo and others, for the maintaining of images to be set up in churches, of whom Philippicus lost both his empire and both eyes, and Leo lost the Pope's blessing, being excommunicated by Gregory III. This Gregory III was he that penned the 4 books of dialogues in Greek, falsely bearing the name of Gregory I, which books after Zachary his successor translated into Latin of Leo IV, see in the year 775. Also by the authority of the said Archbishop Boniface, which he had received from Pope Zachary, Childericus, king of France, was deposed from the right of his crown, and Pipinus, the betrayer of his master, was confirmed. From this Boniface proceeded that detestable doctrine registered in the Pope's decrees, Dist 40, that though the Pope were so wicked in himself and towards others that he led innumerable souls to hell, yet no man ought to rebuke him, having power to judge all men. All right, we're up to 748, Year of Christ 748. Lord willing, continued next time.